Hello everyone and welcome to our Game Week 8 preview show. I'm Chris. Kieran is here too. How are you feeling today?
I'm back. Let's go.
I know.
I'm back up I get back up the ranks, and it feels good finally.
Good. Yeah, I know. You absolutely
Yeah.
smashed it the last couple of weeks. No Haaland has been
Well,
huge.
yeah, pretty much just Saka captain. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great. No, I'm just excited to have football back. Like we've just been talking a little bit off air about Tuchel being announced for England, and that's like helping the international break go along like slightly. But yeah, I'm just ready for us to like return to Premier League basically now. So yeah, let's get into it by just
Agree.
having a quick wrap up about game week 7. I'm losing track of what game weeks we had. Go on, you can go first because you had absolute stonker of a game week. That's huge.
Yeah. So 78 points. A gaming rank of 115k, which is obviously great.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's obviously by far the highest I've had this season. I think the gaming one rank was 380k, which was obviously good, but yeah, that's eclipsed that nicely as well. Yeah, so Trent coming in, Lewis getting some points. I think I can't even remember what I did. What did I do? I bought Lewis in for Porro,
You
and
got
then
Solanke, didn't you?
I took a hit for Pedro to Solanke. So yeah, that ended up fine in the end. So yeah, all good. Solanke got returned, Lewis got returned. Yeah, Rodgers and Watkins disappointing. I thought they would do a lot better against United. I didn't think that would be a 0-0. That was like almost one of the most boring games ever. I think I didn't watch it, but yeah, I heard some very bad things. Obviously, Havertz still doing really well, and Mbeumo returning basically every week. And then obviously the hero of last week, the Saka captain. I was on Salah like basically until the day before, and I was just like, why am I not captaining Saka in this game? So I just flipped it over, and thank God I did. Yeah, so like I was in the millions, and now I'm up to where am I? 231,000. Yeah, I'm green arrows in every single league I'm in. Like just yeah, it's been a transformational week, really, honestly. Like crazy.
I think it's the kind of like game week that helps like set up your season. Like I feel like you've like I feel like it'd be hard to drop that far now because essentially it was like a differential captaincy, wasn't it? Really, and for it to bang that much while it didn't go the other way, it's smashed it really.
Yeah, it's this week Haaland captain. I'm actually terrified by like the Wolves look there for an absolute beating.
Well, you say that, but I don't know. We'll talk about it in a minute. But they kept like Liverpool fairly quiet at home recently, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me with the negativity having Haaland and then having these 2 back-to-back captaincy blanks. I'm a bit like on him at the minute. All right. How did I? Like we say, blanks on the team. Yeah, I had the same players as you really who returned was Trent and Mbeumo and Saka, but that was like where it stopped really. I had Milenkovic on the bench was the only other player who got me a return, and I don't know, I couldn't have predicted him getting an assist against Chelsea. Like I kind of thought they'd concede, and which is why I started Greaves over him. I didn't expect West Ham to score like 4 goals against Ipswich, and I was like much more likely that Chelsea score 4 goals. So yeah, I think that was a bit unlucky, but I wouldn't have changed it in retrospect. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like since the wild card, I've had like quite high hopes about like moving up the ranks and having the new layout. And I think like a lot of people at wild card in game week 6, it's just gone backwards since then. I think the team still looks okay, but yeah, it's just there's a few key areas not performing. But I've got 2 transfers. Have you got? Oh, you'll have 1, I suppose, if you took a hit.
Just 1, yeah.
Yeah, got a couple of transfers this week, and I might even roll to 3 next week. But yeah, we'll have a chat about that a bit later. Right, we'll focus on the games upcoming, and what should we start with? You want to start with Trent and Salah, or want to start with Foden?
Up to you, really.
All right, we'll talk about Foden perhaps because I think he's been looked at as a bit of a key to like a differential premium, let's say, to have a little bit of a rank boost. And there was that issue with the Saka having the yellow flag, and I think that's probably not gonna stay now. But he was like being touted, especially because of these 2 fixtures he's got coming up in back-to-back game weeks against Wolves and Southampton, as being sort of like that key player to focus on. But I'm like not convinced on one at the moment, and I've got the opportunity to get there as well from Diaz, but I think he was such. Yeah, sorry.
I thought he'd do stuff last week, and I thought
Yeah.
there'd be even more sort of clamour for him this week. But
I know.
yeah, he didn't do much for England in the 2 games either. So
No.
yeah, I don't know. I'm looking at him just because I don't have Holland, and I could get to Foden if I wanted to, and he's been good for me in the past. So yeah,
Isn't because even before last weekend, and your like huge week, you were contemplating wildcarding that week and getting Foden in, and I think I think a lot of people have got on him, and his ownership is down at just 6%. But I think a lot of people have got on him early and were almost pleased that he didn't return last week, so others don't jump on him. But I don't, I just don't get it. So he was obviously a huge factor last season, being the second highest scorer in mid. This season, no returns. He's only played 166 minutes, so admittedly that's less than 2 full matches.
Yep.
But I just think even in those minutes he's played, his returns per 90 have not been good. So he's had a 0.1 xG and 0.4 XA per 90 so far this season. So the 0.4 XA puts him 12th of all mids. So perhaps he's a bit unlucky not to get any returns so far, but it's not great. And 0.1 XA, I mean, that's not even in like top 20, top 30 mids. So 77 minutes was the most he's played this season in that last home game against Fulham, which I think most people were expecting City to score through like 3 or more goals, and they did. But they were lucky to win that game, and obviously the fact that they almost had to really fight to win that, and goals from Kovacic, you wouldn't have expected that. Obviously no returns from Haaland. He wasn't like great in that game either. 2 shots, 3 key passes, and that's when he got most of his expected assists. So it's 0.44 in that game to really bump up his average. And I know, like you mentioned about England, Greece is like a different competition, different situation, but 0 shots and 0 key passes in that first game of the international break. Like, how much credence do you put on like recent form against the fixtures when it comes to Foden?
I mean, fixtures are usually key, but I guess we don't even know if he's nailed on to start every game. Like, he has, the most he's played is 77, as you say. So, and I think you've got in the notes there that they got 2 Champions League games as well in between the next 2, Wolves and Southampton. So, considering KDB is out, I mean, that's obviously good for him for his minutes, but how many is he going to play? Like, I can see him playing Champions League and maybe sitting for one of the easy games in the Prem. That could easily happen. Like, Savinho's there, like Nunes is there. Like, there is players that can play his position. So, I don't know. It's worrying.
Yeah, I just don't get I don't get the love, and maybe I wanted to understand if you got it either. Like, it seems like everyone seems excited about Foden for this run, and like, admittedly, this run is good. Like Wolves, Southampton, Bournemouth, Brighton. But the fact he's 9-2, he's probably like the very bottom end of premiums. I would probably say this year 9 million plus, including Watkins, is probably premium price tag because of how expensive Haaland is. Salah, Saka, Palmer, and probably because of structure. Unless you are on a no Haaland team, I really don't see how he's going to feature above a Palmer or above a Saka, or even probably above a Son with their fixtures. So I don't know, he seems a strange inclusion to me, and maybe that's been reflected in the ownership, really.
Well, that's someone like Bruno. They're quite close in price. Do you think, would you pick Bruno ahead of Foden?
Oh man, I feel like Bruno is just like dead to me a little bit after the start of this season. I just think got no confidence in United at the moment.
Their fixtures are good for United as well, so there's an argument for that. Save the million. On Bruno. So,
I know if you were, if I had a spot in my team where I had to fill with Foden or Bruno, I'd absolutely pick Bruno because of minutes, because of set pieces. But I feel like it,
and you've got Haaland, so you don't need to worry.
True, I don't need to worry too much. And arguably Bruno's fixtures are better than Foden's. Brentford at home have been really leaky, West Ham away, Leicester, Ipswich, Everton. But if United have been trash, but probably Bruno as a pick, individually speaking, is probably more reliable for minutes than Foden is. I don't know, it's just a strange one, really.
I think at the same time, like, we've seen it before. He could Hall massively as well. So he could take away points from Haaland too. He could get a hat trick, like we've seen that plenty of times now. So let's not underestimate him at the same time,
No,
I guess. Yeah.
I think, well, so, I mean, the interest is obviously fueled by the next two. So Wolves at home this season of 5.4 expected goals conceded, which is sixth worst. They've actually conceded 10, so they're doing far, far worse than they're predicted to. So you would expect that kind of come back to the mean a little bit, and they won't be as bad as they have been. Yeah, but home and away this season, they have actually been the worst, most conceded of all teams. And like we saw against Brentford last time out, they can be battered. Like that Brentford game and the Chelsea game, if a team gets like up and running against them, they can score lots. And then Southampton, obviously, I think they played well away against Arsenal and probably a bit unlucky to lose 3-1 in the end after they took the lead, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so I think they were probably a bit unlucky to lose 3-1. Like, 6.9 expected goals conceded, which is the fifth worst away from home, and goals conceded 10 is the second worst. So they're obviously bad, but I don't know if they're awful. And I don't know, it just almost feels a bit too short term just to look at Foden for these two games. But yeah, it's just interesting to bring up now ahead of this block of games for Foden when you've got Palmer and, you know, I think a lot of it, like I mentioned before, is fueled obviously by Saka's yellow flag, but also a little bit fueled by Saka's fixtures after this game.
Yeah, and Palmer's too. Like Palmer's, obviously Liverpool away is difficult. So, yeah, I'm just hoping City have got one eye on the Champions League. Away from home is obviously less than ideal for captaincy. I've been lucky the last 2 weeks. I'm not sure I will be this week. But their Champions League fixture is Sparta Prague at home, so I don't think that's that bad either. No. Even though Sparta Prague have been scoring quite a few goals in the Champions League so far, but that he could probably rotate for that game and be absolutely fine too. So, I think I'm just worried. Honestly, I'm worried, and I would love some. Maybe Lewis can be the goal and assister. That would be fantastic.
Do you want to, let's just have a quick chat about Lewis. I haven't got too much like written down stats wise about him because we talked about him on the show just before. You obviously own him now at like 4.7. I didn't go there on Wildcard because minutes, and I didn't even like rate the City defence. I think it's still a bit of a worry. Their clean sheet rate so far this season has been as bad as it has been. I think, was it Chelsea on the first day of the season, the only day they've got a clean sheet? So they've lost cleans against Ipswich, West Ham, Brentford. Newcastle maybe admittedly is tough, and Fulham at home. And Fulham should have won. They had so many more chances to win that fell to Traore. And like I was looking at the fixture run, thinking, am I jealous of owning Rico Lewis? I feel like Wolves away, I think Wolves can score. Southampton showed that even against Arsenal, they can do something. Bournemouth have been playing well. Brighton will go to attack. Spurs will go to attack, and then it's Liverpool. So, like in the next 6 fixtures, maybe I'm being pessimistic because I don't own him and I want to convince myself, but even you as an owner, do you see any clean sheets in the next 6 for Rico Lewis, or are you just happy because he might start?
I think the next 2, I'd be hopeful, and then after that, not sure. I think I just went for him because, like, you know, City are historically pretty good in defence. You know, they keep clean sheets fairly often, at least. And you know, he's playing out of position most of the time. Seems to be pretty nailed on. Almost not. You know, I'm not gonna say he's fully nailed on, but he's playing most games. So I just went for him because he was the right sort of price point from Paro and Pedro to get Slanky, and you know, why not get a City defender at that point? So I'm hopeful for the next 2, and then I guess we'll just see after that. Like, he's cheap enough to bench him in tougher fixtures, so I think he's just a sort of a gift for FPL, I guess, because if he's playing out of position and cheap, where you can bench him, like that's not bad in a top team. Yeah,
true. Okay, right. Perhaps we'll come back and chip more about Wolves in a minute. Do you want to change and talk about?
Sure.
Arsenal a little bit.
Oh, Arsenal.
Where is it? Liverpool.
Liverpool, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
It's out of nowhere there. We've got nothing on Arsenal. So my topic is it worth keeping Salah and Trent with the fixtures coming up? So Chelsea at home this week, Arsenal after that away, obviously really tough. Brighton at home, doesn't look great defensively for that one. Brighton look good attacking wise.
Yeah.
Aston Villa at home after that. Obviously, Southampton away is a good fixture. Then Man City at home and then Newcastle away. Like, they all look pretty much like really bad from a defensive point of view, because these teams are going to attack and try and probably going to score goals. You know, attacking wise, all their opponents will probably, you know, like go at them. Therefore, there should be space on the counter for players like Salah, Diaz, and Trent's playmaking. So, yeah, stats wise, like game weeks 2 to 7, like the last 6 weeks, the defensive stats have been really good. So their XGC is 4.4, which is first of all teams. 2 goals conceded, which is first by a long way. The nearest is on 5. That's Nottingham Forest. So 4 clean sheets is also first. 57 shots conceded, which is third of all teams. 22 on target. 32 shots in the box, which is the least of all teams, was first. And then 12 big chances conceded, which is fifth of all teams. So the defensive numbers look really, really good under Slot.
Yeah.
You know, but at the same time, you know, these teams that are coming are good attacking teams. So, you know, is there going to be clean sheets? Possibly not. There's maybe like 2, maybe 3 at max, I think. Obviously, the Southampton one looks like one. Maybe Aston Villa at home could be one. Yeah, but then other than that, not sure. So their attacking stats, their XG is 11.3, which is fifth of all teams, 89 shots, which is eighth, 22 big chances created, which is fourth, 67 shots in the box was sixth, 39 shots on target, which is fourth. So that's good for their shots on target. So at least with their shots, they're going on target. 11 goals is on par with their XG of 11.3. So not overperforming at the moment, even though, you know, Diaz certainly is. So yeah, Trent, his expected points over the next fixture block is 32, which is third of all defenders. So I'm expecting, or sort of thinking, that must be expecting him to get some attacking returns in these games. So yeah, 32 seems quite high to me, considering the teams they're playing. And then Alisson, obviously injured.
Oh yeah.
3 months out, as far as I heard. I think it was the hamstring again. I can't actually remember, but I think that obviously doubts their defensive solidity. But I actually have some more stats here. Like Alisson's clean sheet percent is 43% per match compared to Kelleher's 31%. So we assume Kelleher's going to be fit. I don't know what the random guy was last time. I think
Kelleher was like injured. And this Yaros guy came on. Yeah.
So I think Kelleher's meant to be fit anyway. So CK Kamamine, I think he's called. Kelleher has an average of prevented goals of 0.23, which is actually better than Alisson's at 0.11, which is a surprise because Alisson seems to be you know, making lots of like sort of glory saves and keeping Liverpool in a lot. So Liverpool's win percent is actually higher with CK at 68.8% versus Alisson's at 66.7%. Wow, so my narrative of thinking their defensive solidity sort of goes down when Alisson is out is actually completely wrong. So yeah, in my opinion, I think keep Trent. I'm going to be keeping Trent anyway. I think he's good for attacking returns. He's looked really good. Like, he got that free kick for England. He's obviously nailed on. He might come off a bit early on in some of the games, so he might get clean sheets still in that sense. So yeah, I think he's probably worth keeping because there is attacking returns to be had. And like I said, like Alisson's absence doesn't seem to affect the defense badly. So, you know, they seem to have been a lot better at keeping clean sheets this season. They only conceded 2 goals, as I said, which is first by quite a long way. So clearly they're doing better this year. So I think he's fine to keep. Salah-wise, what do you think about Trent?
Yeah, I kind of agree. I've seen lots of talk about people wanting to sell him to free up some cash, and I kind of agree. Like, I regretted obviously not owning him from the start of the season and just being reminded of how much of an attacking threat he is. Like, I got some of his numbers, like his XA for the season 2.81. I mean, the fact that he started at 7, he's outperforming most midfielders in that bracket who started that price. And he hasn't been there with the attacking returns yet, but that's not to say that won't continue. And you know, Liverpool and Field, you're right, is a tough game for any team. And with their defensive changes under Slot, I actually feel more confident of them keeping clean sheets than Arsenal at the moment. And I could see them keeping a clean sheet against Chelsea and maybe one of Brighton or Villa and West Ham. So I actually could see that they keep 3 clean sheets in the next 5. And you know, I want to own Trent for those games because he can just pop off in any one game and get an assist or two and a few bonus, and he's probably going to outscore any sub 0.45, or sub 5 million player who you're going to have over the next 5 game weeks, getting you 1s and 2s and maybe a 5. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like he's explosive.
Yeah, I think it's 7 million or 7.1 now. Like, he's not 8 million more anymore. He's not 8.5. Like, just have him in your team. Like, he's fine to afford him. Like, just keep him for basically the season, unless he gets injured. Just keep him. Like, he's gonna chip in with points pretty much every week. So I think he's only blanked, like, what is it, twice maybe? Like, yeah, he's blanked twice in 7 game weeks. So yeah, he's doing well.
I'm just having a look. I'm just trying to sort it. I appreciate the FPL site's not ideal to do this, but just all players who are less than 7.4 million, he is the top scoring player in that bracket. Now I appreciate that's quite a small metric to look at, because there's lots of different players at different prices, so perhaps context, for instance, McNeil is only 5.7 and has got the same amount of points as him. In fact, it's Madueke. Madueke's got 43 and he's 500,000 less, but I'd be more confident that Trent can sustain his performance, because we know he can.
Yeah, I agree. So Salah wise, obviously 12.7 million, pretty expensive. People are looking to sell him to get to Haaland for the next few fixtures. People are looking to sell him to get to Palmer. Maybe there's an option to do that next week, but I feel like this week he should be a keep as well. So he's only had 2 blanks as well, the same as Trent in the last 7 weeks. So 14, 10, 17, 2, 6, 10, and 3. That's obviously really good. This is the time, I think, to see if he's going to be a captain option in these tougher games, because in my team this week, I'm struggling to see who is actually going to be my captain. Maybe it'll just end up on Salah. I like them at home.
And it's a Sunday game. He's had a rest.
Yeah, he's he came back early from the internationals, so I can see him doing fine. So the hardest game on paper so far has been versus Nottingham Forest, which he blanked. So let's see if he can actually be good again in these typical games. So he's the highest predicted expected points for mids from game week 8 to 14 of 53, which is a surprise as well. He's above Palmer, people like that. So yeah. His XG is 3.91, which is first of all mids. 8 big chances is first of all mids. 24 shots, which is 5th. His XGI of 5.3 is first. His key passes 14 is not in the top 10, but whatever. Big chances created 4 is 10th, and then an XA of 1.4 is 11th. So his assist potential is not as good as it has been before. But his XG for getting goals, it's up there. It's first in quite a few of them. So. Yeah, he's on 62 points versus 67 points from Palmer, and everyone's clamoring over Palmer completely. But don't forget Salah. He's only 5 points behind. So, 4 points. Sorry. No, it is 5 points. I can't do math. So numbers look quite good. However, the last couple of games he has sort of not really passed the eye test. I don't think he's felt like a bit
early, wasn't he, against Palace, which was interesting.
He's felt a little bit more periphery, but the numbers don't back that up in terms of eye test. So so expected goals conceded of teams he's facing, right? So Chelsea 7.6, which is 4th of all teams. Arsenal after that 7.5, which is 3rd best of all teams. Brighton, which is one that we're going to be looking at points for him, at 10.3, which is 12th. Aston Villa 7.1, which is 2nd. Southampton 13.6, which is 17th. Man City 7.8, which is 6th. And then Newcastle 10, which is 10th. So basically 4 of the next 7 are versus teams that are in the top 6 for expected goals conceded. So they're tough defenses.
And even they've got some tough Champions League games as well, I think, in between there as well.
Sure. So but at the same time, his numbers are good. Their attacking numbers as a team are really good. So, he's surely going to be involved in something. And then I wanted to look at his record versus these teams that he's playing in the Premier League. So his record versus Chelsea is 4 goals, 3 assists. Not bad. Versus Arsenal, he's got 10 goals, 2 assists. Versus Brighton, 9 goals, 6 assists. Versus Villa, 6 goals, 3 assists. Versus Saints, 7 goals, 4 assists. Versus City, 7 goals, 4 assists. Versus Newcastle, 8 goals and 6 assists. So he basically scores against everyone. Chelsea is the worst, is the team he's struggled the most against out of all these. So, yeah, his record on these fixtures is clearly very good. I think he could be a keep versus Chelsea, and I think he possibly could be a sell for Parma in game week 9, who faces is it Newcastle? Yeah, so that seems like a good time that you could jump off to possibly captain Parma. Yeah, I'll be looking at that possibly. So yeah, I think this week, if you're just thinking to move him to Haaland, then I don't think that's an awful idea if you really want to do that. But for me, I can't do that without a hit, and so I'm not going to do that. So I think I'll keep Salah and hope he does fine, to be honest. So
yeah, I think if I owned him, I wouldn't be looking to sell him across the big. You know, he's going to play most of the Champions League games. The Premier League games and the Champions League games. I wouldn't be surprised if he has reduced minutes like he was against Palace. I suppose it comes down perhaps if you're paying 12.7 million, so like the second highest price asset in the game, you want to sort of be captaining him in those games. But maybe that's not that much of an issue if you've got other strong enough players. His numbers are so good, aren't you? Like when you like read off the number of returns he's had against the top teams like Arsenal, 12 returns, City, 11 returns. The fact that he's had the least returns against Chelsea is quite surprising, and I think notoriously they did have quite low scoring games in the Klopp era. So I think it'll be interesting to see how slot lines up on Sunday afternoon. But it's 4 o'clock game.
See a couple of Sanchez howlers for Salah to get a brace. That'd be nice.
And they've got a busy week because I think it's Leipzig in UCL in midweek, and then in a few weeks' time it's Leverkusen. So their run is tricky. But yeah, I wouldn't be if I had Salah, I wouldn't be looking to sell him. Now, I'd be interested to get your thoughts on this because I'm an owner. AA Studios in the chat said talk about Diaz, please, which I know you haven't got any notes on, but I want to get your opinion on it. So he obviously came in on my wildcard thinking that, some of his form that he'd shown in the first 5 game weeks might continue, and then in the 2 game weeks since, he's obviously got like 3 points and been like such a letdown for me.
Classic.
Yeah. He's played less than 90 minutes in the 2 games since I've had him. Yes, and he had 6 returns in 5 game weeks, and he's just been poor since. So he was never really viewed as a long-term hold, but in games against Wolves and Palace, I was thinking, he's going to get me something in the short term there. I thought those fixtures on paper looked good before this tricky run, and then I had the decision about transferring him out or not. Now, I think he's definitely not a season hold by any means, because he's not consistently performing, I suppose, because he's had now 4 blanks and 3 returning games. He either hauls or he doesn't. I just don't think that, and he's quite a lot of money, so I don't think he's a consistent hold. But I don't know if he's a sell before this game week. What do you think about him? He's been. I think he had his game against his international game last night, and he scored. And Gakpo didn't. I think Gakpo's his main replacement, but they both played similar amount of minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I mentioned to you last week I'm weighing up bringing in Palmer this week because it's probably who I'm going to get next. But then is it a bit like short-termism just to bid him off so early in a game against Chelsea where he could do quite well?
So I think the Twitter detectives have said that he played 70-ish minutes in both the matches at international, which is different to what he had been doing. He had been playing full 90s. And so I don't know, maybe Slot has had a word with the Colombian manager and just got him to play a little bit reduced minutes. I feel like that is good for him for his chances to play or start at the weekend. So if Gakpo's not looking like he's smashing it out of the park and like he's not done that much when he's been on the pitch recently. So I think Diaz will probably start, to be honest. I don't see him as a sell this week, to be honest.
No.
I on the break against Sanchez and the Chelsea defense, which to me doesn't their numbers are quite good defensively, but I don't think
they're not.
Yeah, I test they're not. So I could see Diaz getting something this week for sure.
And Cucurella's out, Fofana's out. The defense is going to be a little bit different. And you're right, Sanchez was pretty horrific, and Brighton could have scored more goals in that game that they won 4-2. And Forest are not a great attacking side, and obviously they restricted Chelsea, and Sanchez had to pull out like a worldie in stoppage time. But I think was it 7 saves he made in that game? something high.
Yeah.
Just having a look now. But yeah, so to answer, it was 8 saves against Forest, 4 against Brighton, 7 against West Ham, 7 against Bournemouth. So they're conceding a hell of a lot of shots for him to be making that amount of saves. So long story short, on Studios' question, well, he just said talk about Diaz, please. I think we've talked about Diaz now. I'm thinking personally that I'm going to keep him for at least this game week. I don't think I'm going to sell him before this weekend, and then game week 10, he'll when he's away to Arsenal, he'll be going, because that I think this is in start. Well, it's busy all the time, but like if they've got Champions League this week and then Arsenal away, there's definitely going to be some rotation, and with more Champions League to go.
I think there's points for these Liverpool attackers basically, and I just hope it's not Jota, because he's got like a goal, 2 assists since I sold him. Really annoying, yeah. But Bromo's been doing fine too, so you know.
Yeah, true. AH Judas in the chat says brilliant, thanks. You remember Liverpool won this fixture 4-1 last year. I'll have to go back and see who returned in that one while we're talking, but yeah, it wouldn't surprise me honestly if they won by that much again, to be honest. I quite like the 4:30 game as well Sunday, and I mean this is such a non-FPL thing, but like I kind of want to have him kept this week anyway, because then I'm like, I've got a player in the 4:30 game on Sunday. It's just nice to check in on. Anyway, right, let's jump on. I was going to talk a little bit about Wolves. I know we talked about City earlier, but I think it's probably time to talk about them as FPL options, because they've got some decent budget options, and after City they've got a good run. So it's obviously no secret that they've had a pretty rough start to the season with who they've played. They played Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Newcastle, Villa. And even Forest they played as well, who were tough. So they're only like, let's say, decent.
And about to play City.
Yeah, and about to play City. And the only decent fixture I'd say they have on paper is against Brentford, when that was a bit of a concern. They lost 5-3, but the fact they scored 3 goals is good. So I'm not going to talk too much about their defence, because I think, there's only, like, from a point of view of their expected goals conceded being good, I think Ignore is a good one. But yeah, I think if their run they're about to start now, I've got it up on screen, is great. So after City, they've got Brighton, Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich, Leicester, Man United. That's another easy one, right up until Boxing Day. And they've obviously got all of their difficult games out of the way. That, to me, is like a cracking run of fixtures. And I think they've got players in their team who could be good FPL options. So looking at my team, you obviously know, and for people who don't, I've got Haaland at the moment, so I've got Haaland 1 premium, and I've got some cheap forwards in there. I think I was thinking obviously about getting Palmer in, and do I downgrade my Watkins? So I've been looking at Cunha, I've been looking at Strand Larsen, trying to compare the two to see how they like fare against each other. Basically, they're both good for minutes, 550 for Cunha over the course of the season, and 560 for Strand Larsen. So very similar. They're obviously quite adept at playing this formation now with both of those two up there. I think it's rare, definitely this season, among teams that there's 2 strikers. And I think both absolutely fine as budget options for this run. A lot of people, like me included, went for DLC for his really good run of fixtures when he only had 3 attacking returns. Both of these guys in tougher fixtures have also had 3 attacking returns. Cunha's got 3 goals. I think Strand Larsen, I'm just going to double check, has got 2 goals, 1 assist. So, both similar. Looking at numbers, Cunha is clear, and probably that's reflected in his price. So his expected goals per 90 is 0.31, and Larsen's is half of that, 0.16. And even on expected assists per 90, Cunha's clear there, 1.8 against Strand Larsen's 0.07. So you're getting more from what you're paying for. Strand is the 7th best for. I thought it was a bit unfair to compare the two of them, because you'd probably only pick one or the other. So I tried to compare it against strikers in that price bracket. Strand Larsen is 7th best for XG per 90 against forwards who are 7.5 million or less. So I thought that made him seem like really poor value against other forwards in the game, basically. But amazingly, despite his 0.07 XA per 90, he's 2nd of all forwards in the 5.7 million or less category for that. So goodness knows how poor the rest of them are, basically.
Got a bin, got a trash, yeah.
And then so back onto Cunha, I wanted to compare him with forwards that are 6.5 million or less, just to get a good read and see if he's good value. So he's actually 4th for XG per 90, against those other forwards, and he's first for XA per 90. So despite the difficult fixtures, he's actually like showing like a decent XG and XA return rate per 90. And he also takes corners, it seems. So he's got that, added assist potential from open and set play. So yeah, for me, Cunha is popping. And I think I read online that if it's not Saliba on the pitch taking penalties, who has barely played any minutes this season, and Hwang, who seems to be out of favour and has barely played any minutes this season, Cunha is the penalty taker of choice. So yeah, I'm looking at him next week as a player who potentially could like rival, let's say, someone like Solanke, as a pretty reliable minutes player playing centre forward in a team who have got a good fixture run. Now, admittedly, Wolves aren't as good from an attacking point of view as Spurs, but he seems like a good focal and entry point. I don't know what do you think about Wolves and their fixture run coming up?
Oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Fixtures key. Their games are pretty much the easiest as it could possibly get. They've got rid of all the other games out of the way. So I think most people start to look at it like Aït-Nouri looks good, Cunha looks good. It's a shame there is no mids for them to really pick. Right? Like, because I've got Havertz, Watkins, and Solanke, and I feel like I want those for the foreseeable. So maybe I could take out Havertz for these tough fixtures, but then I like Havertz. Like he scores in tough games. So he's good value. Cunha is going to be good value. Sorry, and I think you want to get him at the start of the run, to be honest, because I think if you wait a little bit, you might miss the points. So yeah, get on there as soon as possible. Maybe not this week, obviously, but I could see Cunha scoring this week.
Against City as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, Aït-Nouri as well. Like, he's going to be good value. The defense surely will improve. They'll probably concede against Brighton, but like Palace at home, Saints at home, Bournemouth at home. Bournemouth maybe a bit tougher, but Ipswich in there, Leicester in there. Like, there's got to be a couple of cliches, and he's been getting attacking returns. So, what's not to like about him? It's someone that's really cheap. Like, I could move from Lewis to him if I wanted. I could move Dunk to him. Like, that's value for Aït-Nouri for sure.
Definitely, yeah. Well, and he's still quite. I think he's 4-4 still, and he's still owned by only 2.6%. Of people. So his 4 attacking returns this season with no clean sheets, and to get to 22 points is quite impressive. He's had 3 big chances. Had a quick look. That's the second highest of any defender in the first 9 game weeks. And when you look at his like page on the FPL site, you just see like huge load of L's because of how poor they've been doing. But he's been doing okay. 0.16 XG per 90 is only behind Gabriel and Milivenkovic, that's of all players who've played more than 550 minutes. So that's quite promising.
And then the next highest scoring Wolves defender was on 6 points.
I know, right?
That's so funny.
But he had like that purple patch at the end of last season, and then he got injured. But I just think for 4.4 million, if you don't expect much from a clean sheet point of view, he's a bit like a budget Porro. You don't expect a clean sheet, but you probably expect an attacking return. And I think he's more likely to get an attacking return. Well, he has been. He's got more attacking returns than Porro so far this season. So I was.
There's not much not to like, honestly.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't think I was looking at the list. I think maybe the clean sheets you could maybe get one against Palace or Southampton at home, and maybe Ipswich at home. So I don't think you're relying on clean sheets, but he's fun to own. It's always nice to get an attacking return from your defender, isn't it? It's like a little achievement.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's fun. Cool. All right. That's all I'd say on Wolves. But I'm probably going to get a couple of Wolves or one Wolves player next week. So we'll see.
Yeah, I may do the same.
Cool. All right. What else is there to chit chat about?
So I was going to talk about one matchup in particular. Spurs versus West Ham. I think it's an intriguing one because it looks like this should be full of goals. Neither team can really defend. But yeah, Spurs are top of the XG charts at the moment of 15.5, while West Ham have sort of boosted their numbers and confidence considerably after last week's victory over Ipswich. They're on 10.02, which is 11th now, and it was obviously way down before that. So I just want to talk about Bowen, like 7.4 million, 5% owned, so absolutely a differential. 36 points, which is the 12th mid, but he's actually tied with Johnson, who is obviously the darling FPL poster child on the form of his life at the moment, everyone is loving him and everyone is clamoring to him as well. So, but Bowen's tired on him, and what does that say about Bowen if he's not even on form of his life?
True.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's only blanked 3 times in 7 weeks, and his returns have not been huge. He's got 1 double do at once, but he's ticking along pretty much most weeks. So I like him as a sort of sneaky differential pick from now until game week 18. Like their only tough game from an attacking point of view is against Nottingham Forest, who's obviously got a good defense at the moment in game week 10, and then Arsenal in game week 13. But up until that until game week 18, which is like what, Christmas time, I think.
Yeah, Boxing Day actually.
Yeah, so he looks great for just ticking along. Like I said, like 7.4 million, not bad value. Like he's around that Jota value. So, you'll probably want Mbeumo for the foreseeable for the next few fixtures, but then after that,
could be a nice.
Bowen looks good. And then just talking about Johnson, 6.6 million, 5.2%, so a little bit higher than Bowen, but he's still a big differential despite his obviously.
This up? Like he's never been this prolific. It just seems. Is it 6 in a row now, or 7 in a row if you include the games for Wales? Yeah,
it's something like that. Anyway, so he's got 2, 3, 4, 2, 7, 11, 7. So he started to pick up the goals from, is it like game week 5-ish? Yeah, from 5. So similar to Bowen, he's only hit 1 double-digit haul. Yeah. But differently to Bowen, however, is I see this. Speaking of, I see it as a bit of a purple patch, whereas we know Bowen performs consistently. Yeah. His XG of 3.11 is third, which is obviously great, but mainly due to his goals being sort of tap-ins to the back post, and obviously that's not as necessarily a bad thing. But like Sterling in the past was like praised as in these dominant City teams for being the sort of always to the back post for the KDB crosses and then being the tapping guy, and Sterling made a career of that almost. But 21 shots in the box for him is top with Salah, so that's great for him. Yeah. But for a winger though, like his assist potential, it appears to be really low. So he's got an XA of 0.43, which is not in the top 50 for mids. Wow. He's got 0 big chances created, which is terrible. 6 key passes is also not in the top 50 for mids. So that is a surprise. If he's not getting these tap-ins at the back post, he's offering basically nothing. And how much can he get a tap in every single game? Like it's probably not going to continue. So
I'm surprised that XA is so low. Actually, I hadn't noticed that. Yeah, like for a winger in a side as prolific as Spurs have been.
Exactly. So he's only played 2 times 90 minutes all season, which is a worry as well. I mean he's coming off early, but the other games like he's not started some as well. I like him, but I think he's going to lose his form eventually, as I said. And when he doesn't offer that assist potential, that's when obviously his appeal is going to die. But the 6.6 million, like in form, and the fixtures are pretty good. Like you can't really go wrong, I guess. Like on him, like West Ham at home, Palace away, Villa at home, Ipswich at home. That's obviously a great one. City away after that. Then they've got Fulham, which is good. Bournemouth, so their fixtures are pretty good. Yeah. So. Yeah, I think you could, if you don't loan someone like an Mbeumo, Johnson is pretty good value, to be honest. So let's just see if he does sort of lose the purple patch, because I'm not thinking it's going to continue, but he does have the fixtures to make it happen. Yeah. So we'll see. And then just quickly on another West Ham player, Antonio, massive 18-pointer last week. He obviously has hauls in him. We've seen it before. But I think, don't pick him. He's pretty bad. 18 points from an XGI of 0.7. So, crazy lucky day for him. And don't expect that to happen.
Did he get more points in that game than he has and Bruno has all season? Because of the
probably.
18. I'm just thinking, I don't know if I've seen that written anywhere, but I'm just kind of like adding it up in my head. I'm just going to go and check. But yes, that's big overperformance. 10, 13. Yeah, it is. Great.
So basically just from that game, I think there should be a lot of goals. I like Kudus. Kudus finally got his return last week as well. So I think Kudus might start sort of picking on as well. So, yeah.
Do you know what? I looked at Solanke for this, and this is no stats back up about this, but I always think the weekend after an international break is always like a really funny scoring week, because like I think it was like a season low in game week 5. And loads of players didn't return. I remember that. And
interesting.
I look at, might be wrong. Was it the season? Was it game week 5? I'm just gonna have a quick look. But yeah, my also thought is as well. Like it's the 12:30 kickoff after an international break, and I'm like, oh god, do I really want to? Oh no, it was game week 4. That was right because it was a different week this week. That's right. It was average points of 51. Might have been one of the worst. Salah blanked. Yeah. Anyway, just as my my short-term memory on that. But yeah, I kind of wanted to get Solanke for this game week, and then I saw it was a 12:30 kickoff, and I was just like, oh, really? The first game back after international break at 12:30.
I was considering captain, but yeah, that game was put me off.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's really funny. It shouldn't. It's funny that game time shouldn't have any. But when even that City game against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, when it was like the lunchtime kickoff, I was like, oh no, he's not returning.
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
You can't bet against Gandhi, as they say.
Oh yeah, true. All right. I haven't really got too much more to touch on. Really, should we talk about our teams? Because I think we've.
Sure. Let's do it.
Right, here you go. You can go first again.
Yeah, so a little bit of fun with flags. Saka and Havertz. I heard that Carsley said Saka was pretty much would have been close for the second game. They just didn't want to risk him, so they just sent him back. So I imagine Saka's probably fine. Havertz, again, I think is probably just one of those international injuries and probably will be absolutely fine after 2 weeks of rest. So yeah, the thing for me really is just who am I going to captain? I'm happy with my team. I don't think I'm going to make a transfer. I mean, I would like to get Foden. I mean, I'm starting Rodgers, Smith Rowe over Rodgers. Not really sure about that, and not sure who will play.
Fulham are quite good at home. I was having a look at their numbers.
Yeah. So, I mean, Smith Rowe should play again because it was the last week against City. It was just they set up a bit more defensively, which made sense. So Smith Rowe should start. The captaincy I think is just really tough for me this week. It could be Salah. I could just leave it on Saka, even though I think Bournemouth away is a tough fixture actually. So
he's done
on
well
paper
historically, isn't he? There was it last season they won by a lot when Havertz? Did they win 4-0?
Yeah, maybe like 4-0. I don't know if that was last year. It might have been the year before, but yes, that could be a thing. So yeah, it's either Saka or Salah, I think. Even though I've got Vice on Smith Rowe at the moment, he won't stay there, obviously. Not sure, honestly.
Yeah, difficult one. Yeah, you're right. None of them like really stand out, do they?
No, they don't.
I'm really interested to know if it was last year now. Okay, so you're not going to think it. So what's the next what's the plan move in terms of getting Palmer? Have you got that? Have you thought that far ahead and when you want to do that?
Yeah, so I'm considering salads for him next week, possibly. Okay. And then I would consider maybe Saka to him because of those fixtures, but I like Saka in tough games. I feel like he can. He ticks off. He's blanked once this season. Is it Saka?
Yeah.
So I think he's just consistent and tough games. Like I could see him getting a penalty or something. So there's got to be a way to do it. It'll probably be Sally Watkins, even though I like Watkins for game 8 and 9. Maybe I'll wait a week on Palmer again. Because I think the game after that is Man United, which he scored a hat trick in that the year last year, so maybe not too bad to wait 1 more week.
No, nice. I think it looks rosy at the moment, doesn't it?
And I was also considering Saliba to Gabriel, but that just seems like a waste of a transfer.
Yeah, I think you may as well hold on to that.
And wildcard, I'm thinking possibly game week 12. That seems to be a good fixture swing for a couple of teams.
To do what? No, you've got like all the key ones, haven't you? Dunk's got a good fixture run then.
Yeah, well, I don't even know when to play it now. Basically, yeah. QNTV is saying Haaland in the chat. I don't know. I think I'm gonna die on the no Haaland thing. It's been pain for weeks, but this week it's been okay. So I don't know. I would have to take a hit. It would have to be like Saka or Salah and Watkins probably out to get Haaland. I don't know. I've not even thought about it, so probably not going to do it.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, tough. Really tough. All right. Cool. Anything else to add on that?
And Broma could be good, captain. Man
Wow,
United
it could
away.
be a brilliant captain this week. I'm actually quite excited to own Flecken this week. I think this is the week he gets the clean sheet against feckless Man United. He's going to get like
Yeah.
20 saves and a clean sheet.
I'm surprised United didn't get a new manager
So
over
am
the
I.
international break.
I am as
It's
well.
Ten Hag surviving is interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised about that as well. I kind of think it seemed like they gave him like a little bit of an ultimatum was kind of put out, like we'll see how he does against Porto and Villa, and like neither of those were convincing. I kind of feel like if they have a
Not at all.
bad result against Brentford, and who have they got after Brentford? They have admittedly got a good run now. Brentford and West Ham with UCL with like that champion or whatever it is Europa League game in the middle. Kind of feel like if they have a bad game in that one again, he's just like walking the tightrope to he could get sacked after any game.
Yeah, they should have just done it. Like the Porto game going 2-0 up and still drawing 3-3. Like that's not good enough.
Yeah,
and then 0-0 versus Villa. Like that was basically a nothing game. So meh.
I know it's really
just meh.
Really strange. Right, so I've got my team up now, and like I said to you at the start, I don't hate my team. I feel like it's just had like 2 really rough game weeks because Haaland's blanked, but. Yeah, so Flecken in goal, like I mentioned, Trent and Gabriel. Milenkovic, I'm happy to play now for like the next 5 or 6 game weeks. I think he's got some really good fixtures, and Forest have like proved they are solid. That said, I'm not sure how good he's going to be in these fixtures against like the lesser teams because they're obviously going to want to try and win, so maybe they won't be as defensive. But anyway, let's give him a go. He looks good for 4-5. Smith Rowe like you with Rodgers bench and Mbeumo starting, Saka, Diaz, Calvert-Lewin, Watkins, Haaland captain. So what I'm so I've got 2 free transfers, like I mentioned, and I'm kind of thinking. So easily this week I could do Diaz to Palmer and Watkins to someone like Chris Wood, a maximum. And I asked you about that, and I don't know if Wood's been doing really well this season, but like I don't know if I rate Forest's long-term fixtures or him as asset. So I'm thinking next week I'll have 3. And I can maybe do Palmer for the Newcastle game because I think Diaz and Watkins this week are good fixtures as well. Like if Diaz starts, I think he gets a return against Chelsea. I had a look actually based on what AA Studio said in our chat. He got a goal and assist against them last season, so he does have decent form against Chelsea. So I think it'd be stupid to take those 2 out. I think this game week, but next game week, I'm looking at thinking I could get Palmer, I could get Cunha for Watkins, and maybe I just downgrade Rodgers to Dibbling, and that seems like quite nice to still keep Haaland. But my long-term thought is I might after that then save the transfers, and when it gets to game week 12 can really strongly consider going without Haaland, because was looking at some of the like price points, and I think what I've slowly come around to is just because of how well Palmer's done, I didn't expect this season. It's made him, Saka and Salah look such better value than Haaland. And I think when you look at someone like Palmer and Saka who're going to come in at combined cost of like 20.9, so as of typing this, surely they have a higher ceiling over the course of the season than, let's say, Haaland at the moment, who's 15.4 and a 5.5, which is a million player, which is essentially like obviously makes the same cost. And the highest scoring 5.5 million in the game at the moment has been McNeil. And I think predicting which sub 5.5 million asset to return, which is essentially what I and other Haaland owners have got to do at the moment, it's just really difficult. And I think you're always just scraping the barrel of which player is slightly less shit than the next one. You know what I mean?
Talking to the choir, one of us. Yeah.
So anyway, I could do Palmer this weekend for Watkins, or I might just see how I feel and then maybe do it the week after, which is when Watkins he's got Bournemouth away, which I don't mind. And Diaz, I would just perhaps play Rodgers and maybe bench Diaz away at Arsenal. And then I might even I'd have 4 transfers by then, and I could get Palmer, Salah, and maybe Havertz for Haaland, and that sounds like really like it sounds nice.
It does.
It does sound like
I think for me buying Haaland as well, he's 15.4 million, so I've got to pay I got to pay it on top of the 0.4 on top of everything else. So of him being 15 million, so it's just Nah.
And I think we said a while, like when I played the wild card, it's like you've got to keep Haaland for this fixture run, and we're 2 games into it now. After that Arsenal game, we've had Newcastle away, Fulham at home. We've now got Wolves, Southampton, and I'm Wolves and Southampton. He's going to have next 2, and most likely captain both of those ones. But if he's not performed enough, because it does start to get a bit more difficult, and admittedly it's City, but yeah, if it does start to, he doesn't deliver on his returns, then Arsenal will be out of their tough fixture run by then, and it seems like it might be the point in which Havertz, Palmer and Salah provide better value than Haaland and basically 2 5.5 million players. So yeah, I think I've come around to it slowly, but he really needs to like bang now to make up for it.
I think he could get something this week, or possibly blank this week. You never know. Southampton, looks good. Bournemouth away, I think he could blank. Brighton away seems like one he could do really well. Yeah. Spurs at home probably does well in that because Spurs are pretty bad defensively. Liverpool away doesn't look great. Forest at home probably not going to get loads there. So yeah, he's got to blank. He's got to bang in those games where he's favoured to do really well. Otherwise, yeah, like last week, if I get a differential captain when not owning him and he blanks, then yeah, we go skyrocketing like I did.
And I think I looked at it as well. It wasn't like a really good point, so I didn't like write it all down. But if you'd started with Palmer and Saka, and even though they've got the same home and away fixture block, if you'd alternated like captaincy between Saka and Palmer, you would have outscored Haaland's captaincy up to this point. And I think even with the adjusted BPS system with the goals, I feel like it's midfielders like Palmer and Saka, but Palmer especially because he's so attacking, have just got that higher ceiling because of the extra point for the goal and extra point for the bonus. And when it gets to like, I don't know, game week, even 9 or 10 for Palmer onwards, there's such good fixtures in that game. You'd be happy having the captaincy on him for Newcastle, Man United away, Arsenal at home is the no, but Leicester, Villa, Southampton, Spurs, Brentford, Everton, Fulham, Ipswich, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth. There's a case that you could just perma-cap him for like 5 or 6 weeks at such a less expensive cost. So yeah, like I say, I'm weighing up either doing Palmer next week or having like 5 transfers for game week 10 or 4.
Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't either, but I think after you've had like two blanks when that player is so expensive and you realise you could like release the cash elsewhere, and at the moment that is performing well.
If he gets a brace in the next 2, you'll probably just shoot this idea down the pan.
Yeah, I don't know. Really don't know. Because I've captained him pretty much every game week I've had him so far this season. I'm 2.9 million.
Yeah.
So
true.
Is something's not. There's like something not right there. So
yeah, good point. Yeah.
Anyway, right, cool. That probably wraps it up, doesn't it? Spent a long time chatting about that. Cool. All right, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll be back next week. I'm so pleased. It isn't like an international break for a little while now, is it?
Yay.
I know. Good. Right, thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks for the questions. I hope QNTV's prediction comes through with City 4, Wolves 1, and Haaland 2. Although 2 goals, he basically needs 3 to bang, doesn't he? Yeah, get 3 on high Harry. Cool. Right. Any